Taxi Driver wasn't just a gritty portrait of urban decay, it was a psychological pressure cooker that nearly broke its cast and crew. Behind the steering wheel of Travis Bickle's madness were gun malfunctions, FBI warnings, explosive tempers, and a child actor in the middle of it all. What looked like controlled chaos on screen was often barely contained disaster behind the scenes. Here are 20 weird facts about Taxi Driver, from real-life surveillance ops to cast injuries, and one terrifying moment when Martin Scorsese considered killing someone for real. And wait until you hear the bonus fact. It involves a very real, very disturbing connection to a presidential assassination attempt. Buckle up, let's hit the gas. 1. The "You talking to me?" scene wasn't in the script. That iconic line was improvised. Paul Schrader's original script never included it. During filming, Martin Scorsese asked De Niro to play around with the mirror scene, and De Niro, inspired by Bruce Springsteen's stage banter, delivered the now legendary line. What audiences didn't know was that Scorsese let the camera roll for over 15 minutes while De Niro experimented. It wasn't acting, it was Travis Bickle forming in real time. Scorsese called it the moment Travis became dangerous. The scene was so electric that the crew reportedly applauded after the take. 2. Robert De Niro drove a cab for real. To play Travis Bickle, De Niro obtained a genuine New York City taxi license and worked 12-hour night shifts between other acting gigs. He picked up real passengers in the weeks leading up to filming. People didn't recognize the man who had just won an Oscar for The Godfather Part 2. He reportedly earned just $35 a night. But it wasn't about the money. De Niro wanted to become invisible, to feel what Travis felt behind the wheel, unseen, unimportant, and quietly observing the city's decay. Method acting didn't just shape the role, it bled into De Niro's own psyche. 3. Jodie Foster was only 12, and that sparked an FBI investigation. Foster played Iris, the 12-year-old sex worker, with unsettling confidence, but the role was so controversial, it triggered an FBI inquiry into child exploitation laws. To protect her, Foster's older sister, Connie, served as a body double in explicit scenes. Even more shocking, Foster had to attend a court-ordered psychologist session every week during filming. The trauma of the role left emotional marks for years. Scorsese fought fiercely to keep Foster in the part, arguing that sanitizing Iris would gut the film's realism. He didn't just win the battle, he started a cultural war. 4. Bernard Herrmann died right after scoring the film. The legendary composer, known for Psycho and Citizen Kane, completed the Taxi Driver score and died the very next day. He passed away in his sleep on December 24, 1975, making Taxi Driver his final work. Herrmann rejected the film's early jazz theme and instead composed a haunting, ambiguous score that mirrored Bickle's fractured mind. His last piece, the mournful saxophone theme, is as much a character as Bickle himself. Scorsese later said, "He left us with a ghost." It wasn't just a soundtrack. It was a sonic eulogy. 5. The crew had to work amid trash strikes and heat waves. Filming began during a brutal New York summer in 1975. Temperatures soared over 100 degrees, and the city's sanitation workers went on strike. Garbage piled up in the streets, giving Scorsese's team the perfect backdrop, except the stench was unbearable. Rats scurried around shooting locations. Crew members vomited between takes. Actors sweated through their costumes. One crew member reportedly collapsed from heat exhaustion. It wasn't set dressing. It was real rotting New York. Scorsese didn't just capture the city's decay. He filmed in its filth. 6. Martin Scorsese almost killed a man for real. One of the most disturbing stories from the set involves Scorsese himself. In the climactic shootout, when Travis is supposed to kill Sport the Pimp, Scorsese allegedly told actor Harvey Keitel he wanted to use a live round just to see what would happen. Crew members shut it down immediately. Scorsese later admitted he was in a dark mental space and had become obsessed with violence during filming. He even inserted himself into a cameo as a jealous husband fantasizing about murder. It wasn't just Travis Bickle unraveling. Scorsese was unraveling too. 7. The MPAA forced a color change to avoid an X rating. The climactic bloodbath nearly got Taxi Driver slapped with an X rating. The MPAA found the level of gore disturbing and irresponsible. To keep the R rating, Scorsese had to desaturate the color, muting the blood to a muddy brown. What audiences saw wasn't artistic. It was censorship. Scorsese fought hard, but ultimately relented to avoid distribution issues. Years later, he claimed he preferred the drained look. "It makes it more surreal," he said. Harvey Keitel rewrote his role as a pimp. Originally, Sport the Pimp was written as a small, low-energy role, but Harvey Keitel transformed him into a streetwise manipulator with charisma and menace. He even shadowed real pimps in New York's Hell's Kitchen to get the lingo right. Keitel rewrote most of his lines and added creepy, intimate gestures that made scenes with Jodie Foster even more disturbing. In one take, he ad-libbed a monologue while dancing with Foster's character that left the entire set silent. It wasn't just acting, it was danger incarnate. 9. The Mohawk idea came from a real Vietnam vet. Travis's shocking transformation, including his shaved mohawk, wasn't in the script. The idea came from a Vietnam vet Scorsese consulted who said soldiers going on suicide missions would shave their heads in a mohawk style, a sign they didn't expect to return. De Niro loved the symbolism and convinced the team to add it. The production used a bald cap and real hair extensions to pull it off. The mohawk wasn't a style choice. It was a death sentence. When Travis walked into that rally, he wasn't alive anymore. He was already gone. 10 Civil War nearly erupted over the ending. Paul Schrader wanted Travis to die in a hail of bullets. Scorsese agreed, but the producers demanded a hero survives ending to boost ticket sales. The result? That ambiguous final shot with the rearview mirror glance. Schrader called it a betrayal of character. De Niro reportedly agreed. Scorsese was torn but ultimately compromised. The ending is neither triumphant nor tragic. It leaves viewers unsettled, which might be why it lingers so long in the mind. But make no mistake, Taxi Driver almost ended in blood and silence. 11 Scorsese's parents worked on the film. His mother, Catherine Scorsese, appears briefly as a passenger in Travis's cab. His father, Charles, helped behind the scenes, making espresso for the crew and giving emotional support during late-night shoots. It wasn't just family indulgence. Scorsese saw his parents as part of his filmmaking DNA. They added authenticity, warmth, and a touch of old-world grounding to a film teetering on madness. In a movie soaked in alienation, Scorsese quietly snuck in pieces of home, if you knew where to look. 12. The gun dealer scene was filmed without a permit. In one scene, Travis buys a collection of illegal firearms from a smooth-talking gun dealer. What audiences didn't know is that the scene itself was borderline illegal. Due to permit issues, the production shot it guerrilla style, fast, discreet, and without full city clearance. The weapons were real but unloaded, and the actor playing the dealer was a friend of Scorsese with no prior film experience. The crew was on edge the entire time. Any interruption from the NYPD could have shut the film down, but they got the shot. Barely. This wasn't studio magic. It was street hustle. 13 Paul Schrader wrote the script during a mental breakdown. Screenwriter Paul Schrader wrote Taxi Driver in what he called an emotional hemorrhage. At the time, he was living in his car, addicted to alcohol, and struggling with crushing loneliness. Schrader penned the entire script in under 2 weeks. He admitted Travis Bickle was a mirror of his own unraveling mental state. A man without a place. Schrader carried a loaded gun while writing and kept a journal that read like Bickle's narration. This wasn't fiction, it was confession. When producers asked what inspired Travis, Schrader simply said, "I was trying not to die." 14 real pimps and prostitutes were hired as extras. Scorsese wanted authenticity, and he got it. Several extras in the background scenes of Times Square were actual sex workers and pimps working the block. The production paid them SAG minimums and told them, "Just do what you normally do." It blurred the line between documentary and drama. Some extras even offered to consult with Jodie Foster's character, prompting the crew to put extra security on set. It wasn't acting, it was observation. The sleaze and grit of 1970s New York didn't need to be recreated. It was already there, waiting to be filmed. 15. The blood was made from corn syrup and food coloring. The ultra-violent climax required gallons of fake blood. Special effects artist Dick Smith used a sticky mix of corn syrup and food coloring to simulate arterial splatter. But the goo was so thick and hot under the lights that it started to ferment. The smell was nauseating. Actors slipped in it. De Niro's costume became glued to his skin, At one point, crew members gagged from the stench. The finale may look stylized, but it reeked like a butcher shop. That wasn't just movie magic, it was microbial warfare. Art had a smell, and it was rot. 16. The theater scenes were uncomfortably real. Travis's frequent visits to adult theaters weren't staged on a set. Scorsese filmed in real cinemas on 42nd Street, capturing the seedy atmosphere of the time. The theater owners allowed filming only during off hours, so scenes were shot at 2 a.m. amid sticky floors, mildew walls, and questionable stains. Cast and crew were reportedly uncomfortable, especially Sybil Shepherd, who filmed her scene just feet from a screen playing actual adult films. The effect worked. Watching Travis in that theater feels wrong because it was wrong. The shame was real, and the lens didn't blink. 17 Robert De Niro carried his gun everywhere. To stay in character, De Niro took Travis's obsession with guns offset. He kept the props close, at home, in his cab, even in his jacket during breaks. The guns were deactivated but looked real. One incident nearly turned disastrous when De Niro walked into a diner during a lunch break and forgot to conceal the weapon. A bystander screamed and called the police. The crew intervened just in time. De Niro later admitted he had blurred the line between character and self. This wasn't preparation, it was possession. Travis never clocked out. 18. The film was booed at Cannes, then won the Palme d'Or. When Taxi Driver premiered at Cannes in 1976, the reaction was complicated. The audience booed during the climactic shootout, with some critics calling it unnecessarily vile, but the jury, led by Tennessee Williams, saw genius. The film won the Palme d'Or, the festival's highest honor. Back in America, it split critics and audiences alike. Some called it a masterpiece, others called it dangerous. Over time, Taxi Driver came to define the decade's cinematic edge. It didn't beg for applause. It earned its scars, and Cannes eventually gave it a crown. 19. Travis Bickle was based on a real assassin. Schrader partly based Travis on Arthur Bremer, the man who attempted to assassinate presidential candidate George Wallace in 1972. Bremer's diary, an assassin's diary, mirrored Travis's ramblings. Lonely, delusional, violent. Schrader admitted he lifted the psychological blueprint directly. Bremer wanted to be famous. He wanted to matter. So did Travis. The connection was so eerie that it later inspired a copycat crime. But we'll get to that in the bonus fact. Travis Bickle wasn't born in fiction. He was scraped from real-life darkness. 20 Scorsese almost lost Final Cut over the violence. When Columbia Pictures saw the final cut, executives panicked. They wanted major edits to the violent climax, arguing it was morally irresponsible. Scorsese fought back. He told them cutting the violence would betray the entire arc. Eventually, he offered to change the color grading of the blood, but nothing else. Columbia relented, but barely. They insisted on legal protections and disclaimers for international releases. The film made it out intact, but just barely. Travis Bickle survived the story, but Taxi Driver almost didn't survive Hollywood. Bonus fact: the movie inspired a real assassination attempt. In 1981, 5 years after Taxi Driver's release, John Hinckley Jr. attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan. His motivation? An obsession with Jodie Foster. Hinckley had watched Taxi Driver over a dozen times and became infatuated with Foster's portrayal of Iris. He stalked her at Yale and believed killing Reagan would impress her, just as Travis tried to kill a politician to save Iris. The FBI traced Hinckley's behavior directly to the film. The lines between fiction and reality shattered.